Hey everybody, this is a supplementary video on the pandemic series. So from Huple's cat and Becky girl, stay tuned.
America, I've given you all, and now I'm nothing.
So Kyle actually has put out a video. I'm really happy to see it. It's great that he's still got power there and he's having some issues. And I'm going to put his entire video up after this quick introduction. I just wanted to talk about a few of his points. So the militia's been joined the National Guard in California, the area of California, which is farming, and they've sealed off the major cities that are not surprisingly having a lot of problems. One of the interesting things was he said that a lot of the Americans in the big cities are actually trying to get into the farming areas but not having a lot of luck, and they're also trying to get into Mexico because they're desperate for food and healthcare. And he said the Mexican army has actually sealed the border between America and Mexico and has landmined it and is shooting to kill and is stopping anybody coming across. And I think that's pretty much what I expect to happen. As Uncle Al says, it's not just the national borders that are tightened down with shoot to kill, like you're not getting into somebody else's country. But it's actually the local areas as well. Like the city dwellers are not going to get much help from the rural areas, even if they can get in. They're likely to be treated extremely hostile, and that sounds to me what's happening. The other thing he said was that because of the local churches in the farming area, they got a lot of canning jars and they're actually canning preservative and preserving their own crops. Because it's a farming area, they got canning jars and stuff. And I'd expect that to happen as well. We can't really do that up here because nobody's growing any crops right now. But I do expect the areas when we can grow food are going to grow it for ourselves, not for other people. Speaking of which, and you can call it selfish, you can call it sensible survival, the American pharmaceutical companies are actually still getting medications into some of the areas that are maintaining government control, like the area Uncle Al's in. So he is getting some of his meds he needs on a fairly frequent, though non-guaranteed basis. And that's pretty much true. The pharmaceutical industry around the Greater Toronto area has taken a huge dive, but is producing certain things like Tamiflu and some antibiotic specific ones like Triaxone and Cefalaxin for chest infections, and that's been strictly rationed, but it is producing. But what we're not doing is we're not sending it to Manitoba. Like it's local and everything's local, right? The other things he was saying, which I found was interesting, was that they also got a night curfew going, but it doesn't sound as strict as ours. They also haven't had as many deaths yet down there, which I think is an interesting one. They kind of on the west coast got it after the east coast and the central areas. Toronto kind of got it first in North America. So I guess we're ahead in death rate, and our death rate's still climbing. It's pretty significant. I mean, 1 in 6, 1 in 7, 1 in 5 in the GTA are dead. We don't know. There's a lot of people in their homes who haven't, we don't know if they're dead or alive. We're not keeping stats at this point. He's also started mass graves down there. They've got digging up using backhoes. They have diesel from the farms and they've got a fair amount of transport because of the diesel. So what they're doing is they're actually getting stuff delivered and moved around, which we haven't really had up here. There are a few army trucks on the road and the councils are going around with garbage trucks to pick up dead people from the sidewalks, which is, it's huge because North Americans don't cope with death well, and I guess after this death will be called death again and not passing. Yeah, he said that the homeless had all been rounded up and been forced into shelters because and all that sort of stuff. I'm not altogether sure if that's going to work well. They tend not to stay where they're put on, Carl. And to be honest with you, I think a lot of the homeless probably fled deeper into the underground and into the forest than you may realise. So I'd expect people to be infected and passing this flu along for a while. I think that's the main thing. Like quarantine is iron now, right? Like if you cross a quarantine barrier or you do something wrong, up here you're being shot. People aren't approaching you and taking the risk. Where there is police, where there is army, which is hardly anywhere, if you break quarantine they shoot you, and they're shooting to kill. I didn't really mention it too much in my video about what actually happened when we closed the hospital. I mean, we've actually closed the hospital about 10 days before that to most admissions and then all admissions, and then just admissions that were brought in by certain people like the police and the army. And most of the patients left when we had no power. By the 5th day, the diesel failed, and most of those who could left, those families who could took, and the rest of them we just did our best for a while. We had stopped ventilating and life support quite some time before the power actually finally failed as a planned thing, and we were just giving basic care as far as we could, which was pretty bad, and using a lot of volunteers, and it was a big mess. And we were out of sheets, we were reusing sheets, we had no way of cleaning them. Even things like scrubs are all centrally cleaned, they're collected and taken out of the hospitals now. There's no hospital laundries anymore, there's no hospital meal areas anymore. You know, we get food and we sort of process it, what food's given, and put it on plastic trays and send it up to the floors. All of that stuff ran out. There was no plastics delivered, there was no reusable trays. People were asked to bring their own quilts in and their own pillows, and they were asked to bring their own food in, and then they were asked to bring their own cutlery in, and it was horrific. The last decent information I had on the death rate was saying that we had lost 1 in 6. In my ICU at the hospital, the main ICU, knowing from Kitty and knowing her friends and stuff like that when communication was still working out, they had a staff of about 230 nurses and respiratory therapists, and approximately 28 of them were definitively dead. In my own department, there's 6 of us. 2 of them are dead. I mean, I haven't processed this. I haven't had time to process this. I'm going to go and get some more buckets of water for John and Dorothy so they can flush their toilet. I'm going to come back, go upstairs, give Kitty a wash again, give her a turn, give her some of my fish antibiotics, and feed the dogs, feed myself. And taking it day by day, that's all I can do. Stay safe.
Hello, boys and girls. This is your old pal, Uncle Al. Hey, Hubble's cat, how are you doing in Canada? Hi, Hubble's cat. Hi, Ontario Purper. We're doing the pandemic series, and we're volunteering our part. So anyway, this is what's going on so far in California. Let me get this gear off. Now, I know the Hubble's cat will say, aren't you wearing an N95? We ran out. We only got these stupid dust masks, and they're not a big help. Anyway, so far in California, you notice I'm wearing gear. This is storm gear because our protection gear went out about 4 days ago. Oh, Lord. So did the gloves. So we're making do. Tired. Anyway, we're okay here in Visalia. We're a small ag community. We have sealed off. We have a National Guard unit. We're in contact with the state capital, Washington. Everything's fine. Our death toll is about 5,000 so far. 5 was the get up. We dug, whatchamacall, we have earth movers and ditches and backhoes, so we dig a lot of mass graves. Our local playing field is now one big, huge mass grave. We're not kidding around here. We checked everybody. We rounded up all the homeless like they said to do in martial law. Now, unfortunately, I'm part of the city council in a position of power and mayor because he got sick and he's part of the mass grave. But we're doing fine. Everybody's armed and we're in the militia. A lot of Minutemen joined up with the National Guard to replace the numbers missing. We ain't kidding around. No more homeless. Everybody has shelter and everybody's accountable. Biggest problem we had was the homeless. We found out them and their unhealthy conditions was spreading the flu bug around here. Now, Uncle Alan, because I guess they said I had a previous form of the virus and my lungs are damaged like hell. I'm immune, but I have all this work. I have about 2,000 people in our local high schools and our hospital. Really sick one in the hospital. Everybody else is in the high school gymnasium. They're really sick. We're doing basic, simple nursing and medication. I have several groups who are still viable and stuff. I've learned that young people and children, anybody under 35, stay away. Unless older adults, I have a lot of senior citizens like me, Uncle Al, are immune, so they're helping out, and it's a mess. Recently, we only got about maybe 2 a day that dies off, and that's because of secondary complication. I'm doing my best because we lost about a third of our hospital and nursing staff. So a lot of us farmers got to take care of it. I had a lot of the youngsters out in the farms because they're away from people, and they could, with their strengths, they could help out with the farming chores. Uh, Power, electricity, and gas is fine. Nice thing about my area, we're all farmers and we have diesel tanks. So if you drive a diesel cart, not a problem. There has been some minor looting, and unfortunately I had to give the orders to execute 18 of them. They're in the town square hanging. They're not hanging around, just hanging. We're not taking any looting or random violence. Everybody is armed. It's like the Old West out here. Bars are closed at 4 p.m., open from 10 to 4 if you need a drink, and it's a 2-drink minimum. We drink a lot of beer because food is getting short, and a lot of people don't like to eat at the community kitchens. We do have an out service, but depending how far you are away, we have to tell people that you can cook at home if power keeps up, but power's intermittent, so I have to, because of diesel fuel, we have to cut down the generators so they cool. So it's only about maybe 6 hours of power per night or per day. We're patrolling the streets. Our biggest headache was from Bakersfield and Fresno, but after the 4th or 5th week, or whoever Huple's cat was talking about, that trickles died down. Luckily, somebody dynamited the grapevine. And so LA has been a hellhole. What we got from the military radio and ham radio is it's a pest hole. A lot of people either head toward Vegas, but they all died out. And the other people went to Mexico, and Mexico is now landmining the border. They're improving the fence and putting landmines out there. It's like bloody border, except sick Americans trying to get into Mexico. And the Mexican border guards have ordered to shoot people climbing over the fence or the wall, whatever. And the Mexicans are building a really bigger cement wall with landmines. You know, it takes a disaster to do this. I'm getting tired. Okay, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, sometimes my meds come short because the supply trucks. It's coming over the Sierras from Nevada. We have some, what they call it, air supply. The trouble is we lost a lot of pilots. A lot of pilots died from the flu. And we get a train maybe once or twice a week. And because everybody's sick and I don't have enough people to unload the trains. Still working the one last week. I even was working on it, and I'm not supposed to lift heavy things. But we got to do it and got to take care of people. And those stragglers from LA, stay out of my town. We won't have it, and we're not taking any crap from anybody. Up north in San Francisco went to hell because it's run by Democrats and idiots. Totally everybody's there last heard that animals are taking over the streets. There's so much dead that really cannot get into the city. Some of the military bases have a few refugees. We sent 2 diesel trucks up there with food and supplies from down here as best we could. I made sure we have plenty of roadblocks that nothing comes back towards us. San Francisco and the Bay Area. Oh, those Silicon Valley giants. We don't want your kind around here. You can hang around the winery and die up there. Eat those grapes. So anyway, we're sending food up there. They have a pretty good water source. Hetchy doesn't disturb. A lot of places up and down valley, it's like a war zone. I'm not kidding. Every time we send a food truck, we have to send half our National Guard and make sure it gets up there. We get resupply with ammo. Great. We have tons of ammo. We need food. Last thing I requested from them is get canning jars. We got our last big batch from the Bay Area. We've got plenty of canning jars. There's some things that we could salvage. We talked to the U.S. government, state government, we've got that they can't use and we can. So it's going down here and we're pretty good. Sacramento asked if they can move the government down to our location, and I told them hell no. Electricity will be coming back full time once I make sure half the solar plants around us is working. We had a big trouble because that's why we started hanging people, because some bonehead was ripping off the main solar grids. They were stealing copper wire and solar panels, and that really screwed up our system. So that came to a sudden brief halt. They were hung about 2 months ago. We're not screwing around here outdoors. So anyway, bye, Hubble's cat. I hope you stay alive. We're all right. We're fine. A lot of us old timers around here are well prepared. And we have ready to eat meals, which has been a blessing for a lot of us who can't cook. Now I can cook, but a lot of the sick people can't. And basically it's a sealed plastic tub-like meal. And we have plenty of that. Churches always stock up between the Buddhist church, LDS, and others. We have this, and we have immersion heaters. So you place the ready-to-eat meal inside the hot water bath. In about 5 minutes, it's ready to go. They eat the meal, no utensils. Well, we give them plastic spoons. And we don't have to worry about anything cooking or touching any other patient. So we got that covered. I wonder how come Hubble's cat never heard of these. I got to do a video on that if I'm living, and I don't have to do paperwork. Yeah, Uncle Alan has a ton of paperwork. Even if I have to, remove the bodies and bury them, I still have to do the paperwork. Why they were hung. Whoops. There we go. Now, why they were hung. I got tons of paperwork. And I'm back to the old typewriter and carbon paper. This is the best I could do for communications, Hubble's cat. I always have fun. I'm supposed to be retired and don't have to worry about this. But America calls me back and I have to do all the crap again. And I got paperwork to do. So hope you survive. No shout outs because I don't know who's left. And this is an imaginary setup. And this is for you, Hubble's cat. And Uncle Alan has to go back to do paperwork again. Bye, folks.